So comparing the previous class, what we have done. So in the past class, what we've done is we were able to set up some Aura components. How do we do it? And what are the areas? How do we configure it first? So firstly, we have to set the domain, but the domain is already available because it's all the new Salesforce are having this domain is pre-configured. So what you have to do is you have to just go simply create a lightning component, and in the component, the bundle which has 8 files. Out of the four files which is important, I have listed here, and you can give hello world here in the component, and you can just preview them. Maybe not preview right away. You can drag to a record page or a app page or a lightning page, any of the area. You can drag them, and then you can see them as a preview, like hello world, how to do see it. So like say if you have a controller, if your Apex having a chase controller, if you want to have some logic to be present there, still you could have added there. And so what we did is we create simple components. We added to a record page and we preview it. So that is what we did. And again, adding to a record page and we preview it. And we created something like a Lightning app, and we dragged and dropped the Lightning component there, which we created there. So that way, our Lightning app is displaying this Aura component, and it can display as many components. It's not about the only one or two components. As many components that or whatever you create, you can throw them there. And this also we previewed. And next, what we did is we wanted to focus on something like these applications should have a created delete, and then where you have to have some UI inputs. So you try to take from the form, or either you try to edit or create whatever you do. So we did this, and we also tried to read the record, and if possible, we want to search them also. And so this is the few things that we wanted to discuss yesterday. So create, read, and update something that which we achieved, which we're able to achieve. So next is displaying our components. What we wanted is we wanted to display in all the areas: lightning tab, lightning page, record page. Record page is the one frequently you're hearing about, but otherwise, quick action is a button. From button, we are trying to invoke the call. So then, so these are the options that you get when you create a lightning component. So then I have been seen here, okay, within our Salesforce MCD org, if you do, so it is something that we see you are doing some components which is trying to do a CRUD, or you're trying to display the records with all you're trying to do with the internal org. So what if there is an external org, people from outside the Salesforce or like Central org, they are trying to connect to our MCD and getting some records and then displaying their, their org. It's more or less we are trying to hit from the external org to our org integration where we had early. The same things that we are trying to focus now also. So from external org, we are trying to come to our MCD org and get the data and display in their own back to their components. So this is again, we are trying to register the some customers from SysCentral to MCD and get the results back. The same way, we are trying to search the restaurant and provide the associated list of customers based on that period. So these two services already we exposed. The same service we'll try to use in the other components also. Okay, so this is our agenda what we wanted to have, internal, external. Yesterday we were able to try majority of the internal logs. So today we would touch about the external log, what we can do there. Okay, for doing this, what are the skills required? Like if anyone asks you to write a simple components, what are the skills you have used? So now Salesforce for the Lightning Aura, we say it is MVCC framework type. What is that MVC and MVCC? Again, it's a model of controller only. Additionally, one controller we have is so one is JavaScript controller, another one is the Apex controller. So that's the reason we have two controllers here. So why two need to be required? So sometimes you wanted to work with the client side, sometimes you want to work with the server side. So that way, MVCC we say it. So what is that M? It is about the model where you have objects and then you try to query from server. And then V is nothing but view, where you generally write a UI things, or we say it as a component. So .cmp extension, wherever you see, there you write a UI stuff. .js, where you write a JavaScript logic there. And you write an Apex class in order to query records and then display back to the or send back to the Aura component so that they can use that values and display the records. So these are the reason where we want to have these MVCC buttons. So likewise, SLDS we tried to use yesterday. So SLDS, what it does, Salesforce Lightning Design System, like if we just go to Lightning Design System, yesterday we used. So few text or few contents has already been available there. So you can use this code and then you can start implementing them. So that's the biggest advantage we have there. And majority the form or boxes, whatever you see here, all are like just like static content. You have to make no dynamic for those guys. So many of the snippets we get it. So it's not about the box or also the forms, models. So form element if you see. So maybe we will have something like this, or something. Sometimes we may have a form text box with along with the search button. So we can have various ways. So this is something like inline you try to do it. There's a line here present to the placeholder. So it can be as many different ways the form element can appear. So overall they can put into text area, checkboxes, and then you can have buttons. You can see various ways of forms can be filled here, but all they have default code, so you have to utilize them. So that's the reason I'm saying. So Lightning Design System, if you have the snippets, you need to know how you're gonna drag them or how you're gonna copy them and then use it here. Basically, for that, JS Lightning Design System is required for SLDS. So you may use box, forms, designs, whatever you want. And you have a Lightning preview components. How do you do it? So if I take a simple example of this URL, so they would give me. So this is something like a snippet you have where a box appears, a form appears, how it is. But this is something like a preview there where you see directly they give a code to you. Something a particular button you want, a button code is available here. So this is our component, and then in this our component for button logic they've written this. Do you see this? On click of this, you're trying to call this method. C means what? Let's say it is a controller. You think C dot handle click. In the controller you can see C dot handle click. Handle click is a method here. Look at this. So from here, C dot handle click. See that everywhere you have handle click. All they are trying to call to this controller. So now they have a component event helper. So component is something that what is that form is holding or what is that UI element is holding, those things would be here. Event is nothing but someone has clicked on it activity or someone is trying to fire some event, something that would be there in this event. Helper is something that where you want to take the snippets and you may have another helper, sorry, another JS controller you have. So you're trying to move few things to there. Like you are trying to not divide the task or divide the line of codes or divide the method, and you're trying to put into separate class or methods to do it, right? The same way that you're trying to altogether move to a JS file. So we'll see that one. So look at this, but what they done. A button label variant is base and the title is base action. So now we wanted to check whether what is the action they're doing it or the event has been fired. Event dot get source dot v dot label. So we are focused on only on the label. So v is variable basically. V is refers to variable or C is refers to component. That is what you should assume it. But generally, C we all are predefined variables. Predefined variables in sense. So for any variables declaration due that we they're saying it. For any controllers you wanted to call like say method or something you want to basically to want to call methods. So use C. Any events you want to call, use E, something like that they say. So why they all they say is because variables like alias reference is required in order to call some methods. So now C we say always it is a calling a method. B I say always it's a variable. So that way when I say here label, so in the v dot label, what is the value I've given? So even dot get source by the series. The moment you click on something, even generates. So that get source of what? Dot label. So I got this base. So likewise, if you say click on brand, you get that you clicked on brand. You click on destructive text. So how are they getting this? Because the label value what you have given, based on that they're getting it. See, look at this. For this, we don't require any Apex class. So this absolutely works like a HTML and a JavaScript, a basic functionality. So, do you have any questions you guys have?
I'm good.
Okay. So then, so this all talks about the UI stuff, and then trying out the different things. It's not only about the buttons. So if you see here the right and left hand side, if a couple of them along with the design, these guys are showing it. If I say a file card, I think this is do any preview for that. Uh, Card, yeah. Look at this. This is our component card they have. So this is simple UI. They have brought it up and then displaying to you. If something that you wanted to have some component and that is calling some activity, yes, you can have a controller here. Hmm. Button carousel data table. Let's say example, see the data table here. This is LWC it is. So view as our component. Let's move on. So we'll see different types of a data table that we have. So for this component, controller, helper also you have it. So I'll show how the helper is being used. So well, let's go with the simple things. Data with TC, right? So simple basic data table test. Table with selection. So table with selection. Table in actions. So you click on this, add to the beginning, add to the end. Something that you do. So something like this, they are trying to show an activity. How to add the beginning, how to add them. So they are simply showing some UI. So look at this for this what and all they've used. Component. So I said you right, attributes are used, something like declare the variable. So is key field or whatever. So it is something like integer data type that whatever you use it. But actually to declare the variable, we have to have the columns, what type of data type they are having. So type is indicates here data type. Default indicates what is the predefined value you have been setting to it. So let's say integer I is equal to 10. I is equal to 10, right? So that 10 is this. So what is I? So that I is here. What is that integer? This is integer. So integer I is equal to 10. So that's how you define a attribute share. Is getting? So likewise for this component, they would have used a number of attributes. Maybe they are using in so many places. It's okay. So when you say handler, so that means you're trying to call the method. We have to be very careful here. Aura colon attribute in the sense it talks about a variable declaration. Aura colon handler, that means you're trying to call some method that is written in the controller. So why they should call that c dot init? So that would be the first method because it's an action method where you say something we say it as a constructors you're trying to call the first one, right? On the load of the data only you need to something. For example, this is a data table. The moment I click on a data table, you are trying to load the data. Look at this. So just on the page load, you need to have data. To have data on the page load, we need to have something being queried in the constructor because the constructor is the first one to call in the program. So they quickly run and you get the data also they quickly run. So that is happens in the moment the page loads. The same way here also. So we have a component, we have a controller, and let me get to the selection and action. Yeah, to this only they return bunch. So handler init, and you have to use this. This means this dot particular action. Please go and fire onto the constructor. So let's go to this constructor. You see, this is the init method. So why does we say it? This is the first method they wanted to run. Go to the component event helper, whatever. So component dot set wherever the v columns you have, helper dot, look at this, helper dot get column definitions. So they are trying to call the helper method there. Helper dot get documentation. Another method they have written in the helper. Now if you see get documentation, get column definitions is here, and they have the function. Simply they are trying to construct of values, and then so they are trying to return the column data here. For opportunity, this is a field and this is the value. This is a text. Something that they are trying to give the data over there, and that has been sent back here because you're calling helper dot that method name. So you got the values, so you put into columns, and again you're having a fetch data. Then what you do is opportunity with the company name, company dot company name dot find. This all you're trying to give it in the fetch data. So promise indicates, of course, all these values are there. So then I have to display them in the right way, so that nothing goes wrong. so so we dot data schema, deliverable schema has been referred here. Deliverable schema somewhere to be deliverable schema. And its object. So whatever you see here, the snippets you would see um, methods and the actions, all that will be calling from a component to display each every value. And where they're expecting to have a controller, they will be looking at the controllers. And for them, if they require any helper, they will go to the helper dot some methods that they will give it up. And moreover, I was saying here, so if you see somewhere callbacks and all, so if you see callbacks and all, what you understand is here you have to do it. So till now we were talking about device stuff and how to preview the code using the lightning example. And the next thing is you need to know understand about the JS control also. So in the JS control means what is a pure JavaScript. That is a prerequisite to understand, because if you write a simple JavaScript, what it will do. Those also we need to get to know. But along with that, you need to understand few callbacks I said. So anyway, if you are all having the callbacks, in callbacks, what functions you're calling and what type of data that you're setting is all important. Everywhere you can see a callback. Why? Because you're calling and then you're getting the data and then displaying something. So callback is a good example. So for what you're calling and what it is setting display. v.data. Again, helper is trying to fetch the data here. Again, you're sending v.data. So what is that v.data? It's a variable of data type, so that you're setting all the values which is coming there. It's just like something that integer I is equal to some value trained, right? So that I you indicate this. How do you reference I? v.i you reference, and that the value you give us new data. So left hand side the variable and the right hand side you get the values, and those values are assigned to here. So how do you got this new data? Somewhere you would have been invoked here. Look at this. This is new data. You have called. In the new data, how do you call? So data.concat current data. So current data goes again back here. Then what it did is finally v component dot get v.data. So in v.data, actually it is holding some value. So that has been assigning to here, and that we are again we concatenate with the current data. I mean, so it is something that existing would have some data, and currently we would have some data, and again we would have some data. So you're trying to concatenate as many data that you have. Let's say 10 records, again 10 records, again 20 records, or 40 records you have to have. So let's just keep on appending the data to that. So basically, you're saying that add rows to the beginning. Okay, first record I want to add. So add concatenate there. Add records to the end. So I need to add to the end. So that is what they're saying about the concatenate. So clear means I want to clear the v dot data. Completely make this as empty list. So this is what we have, right? So the buttons and actions, whatever we have, clicking on this each an action button. So we are trying to do some activity. Clear rows. On a click of a clear rows button, what it did. So you went to this particular method and you call the function called component and component.set v.data is a value is v.data indicates the variable of data what you want to show. So where the data is there. So this is the data of type what list and default is the empty list. Okay. So this data they are trying to have that v.data. Where they are all using this, if you see they would be displaying in a table. Look at this writing data table. So they're having a v.data here. Column indicates all the field names, whatever we want. Data indicates what are the data that have there they have to display. Such v data which you're giving as blank, everything goes blank. Whatever the data, no columns or values whichever goes. Specifically the values goes blank. So that is what they've written here. It's a function which called as clear rows and then v data I'm setting to blank. So that's the reason the whole table is being blank there. Sometimes you're calling saying the reset columns. I'm going back to the helper.get column definitions and again resetting the value there because you could have changed a lot of things there. So you're resetting, so it is coming back to the original state of what init was having it. So that is what they're trying to do. If you want to add rows, if you want to set something, if you want to update the selected records, so each and everything they have covered the functions. I think this is a good area to understand a component and a function getting multiple times and different methods also they have it. So here they already have mentioned how do you call the UI buttons from a controller and the logic. Extend the logic where we read the helpers. Helpers also we have shown some example. So using a controller, how do we call? So that is what we have to do. So till now what we see is all client side we have did it. So there's no any Apex class written there so far. So it's all about client browser. So with the help of your local browser, you try to write something and then you're calling the HTML and you're looking the results within local you think, not even went to server. So such codes are not even using any Apex classes here. It's all about just preparing the UI and just preparing the JS file and then helping out in the design things. For CSS button, because the next button or previous button you need to have some colors, right? So they have added CSS there. So already if you create a bundle, all these four would be created for you, along with some design, SVG, and then render, and then design params. Altogether they have. So frequent use they have four, so they are showing this stuff. So this is about their table concepts. So there could be multiple things like this. So you have to go through them all and check how the components is used. In the documentation, they have said that how to use this a simple data, and if just keeps on going to complex, then how to deal with those data. So everything they clearly explained about it. Now retrieving data from a controller. So this is what I'm going to do now. So simple class container, we'll write it and we'll try to display some records there. So let's use this example and try to display the contact controller. So let's go with these options. Because our agenda is to get and use an Apex class. Apex class, why you use it? Because you just go to a server, hit the record, and then get the data and display the things. So altogether, MVCC pattern model is there. Of course, the objects we query from in an Apex controller, and V is for the UI, and other C is for controllers. There are two types of JS here. So controller JS we have and helper JS we have. So first one is controller JS we have to use it. To that addition, if you want helper JS, you can use it. Now let's quickly deal with the server data. So where we wanted to write things. And yesterday we did it without writing an Apex clause. We tried to use the LDS service. So what is the LDS? It's a Lightning Data Service. You need not to write any specific snippet or a code, Apex code, in order to save a record, edit a record, or delete a record. So what we did is we just went on to the UI. Let me show the UI. And also let me open the developer console. So yesterday we written a simple program or a component, so which should have as force ID a must thing, and we all dealing with the content object. So this simple snippet is enough to edit a record. Again, this simple small snippet is enough to edit a record. What are you going to do it? So you have a tag called as record edit form, and they should have all these fields. What is that? Input type, input field, input field. What is that input field? Why they should give this? Because you're trying to modify or inside the record. Input field name, last name, email. Since this is a recorded form, if your record is in, let me open this customer. So look at this. This is the form that we have. So the as recorded, as force recorded. So has force recorded. Has recorded. Force colon as recorded. If you have this tag, so with the help of the tag, it is automatically pre-populating this v dot record ID. What is that? I said it's a variable which some placeholders for the records ID. So like that, record ID, we are trying to hold it. I didn't define anywhere it is. It is by default they will have the value. So because first record ID is the one which like they're already having it. So you just get invoking by them. Just v dot record ID you're giving it. So if this particular small snippet of a component is placed inside the record page of the contact, so you can have this form ready. Yeah. Why the values are appearing? Because as first ID is given, so that's the reason we have an ID there. In the same way, I have created another one which is like articles. We prepared some using the Lightning design system. Using a card, we try to write a snippet. Even the record view form, we are doing it. So here it is edit, here it is a view. If you don't have any ID, no, so they treat them that as a fresh record and they try to insert the new record there. If you don't have an ID, it treats as a new record. If it has an ID, it treats as an edit record. So that's the specialty about the record edit form. Okay, record view form. So here you're trying to view the record, which should be in a readable format. So we don't use anything input, we use always output. Why? Because it's just simply flatly we're reading the data. Again, same thing. So we dot record ID, passing it. So this record we can have this record to display. And then finally, one more thing is we used. So instead of passing the writing this first name, last name, everything. So there's another method also. So where we say record form and v dot record anyway required, object is required because everywhere object is required. Which object we're dealing? So that way, yes, of course, this is mode is read only mode. I want to do anything other like edit activity. So fields, v dot fields, where the fields is there. Fields is basically we have created an attribute and then we have made it as a string of array. And then we have all the fields that we want. We have put in one go. So like the 10, 20 fields, what you want? These are like array of fields you have. So that we have here. How do you use them? V dot fields, I say all these array fields, whatever indicated, so it will be assigned here. So that is what you can see here. First thing is the box where you try to edit. Second thing is the UI form of card. We're just only seeing record. Third thing is like just like displaying the data. The displaying of data is like one after the other fields, right? So here because it's a one after the other, the fields are keeping indicating here. So we're gonna have as many fields. So this UI is similar to what we have in details. If you see this, it will be like more or less same. Same, right? So row, lead source, and the value. So name and then value, and then there's a bar there. So it just having the same UI type they what the Salesforce has used. So this they have used it. Look at the design is also looking perfect. Any questions here?
No good.
Okay. So now we have revised of whatever we done yesterday, and then what we want to have is today we want to write some. Um, so this is all about the out of box features we have. Uh, try the aura with Apex controllers. So this is what we're going to try today. I think um, applying the UI controller JavaScript and then so Apex server said that we didn't do it. Let's do that today. Trying with the aura with Apex. So let's have a quick note there. I'm going to create a new component. Like go to developer console, new. So this is the lightning component. And this lightning component, I wanted to give to all these options. not a single thing. I wanted to give to all, so that if I want to use, I can use it everywhere. So think this, all this, if it is used, how do we use it effectively? So I would say this is a contact, um, contact or a component. I'll put it this way: contact or UI. Contact list we're trying to display using Aura component. Yeah, this is fine. Okay, now there is a bundle. We got it. And since we all selected the options at the top, look at this. So in app it is available, in all the page types it is available, in all the record format is available. And it should have foresight, it should have available in the communities. And then all the page types you require again there in the communities. And you are putting that lightning quick actions. So if you have this, then you can have a quick action button in your contact object. So I'll show you how that is going to work out. But firstly, quick action, this particular keyword should be present there, only then you can use it. And access is global. Yeah. So this we have, and then we go back to controller here. So there's an attribute called as my data they have, and they are trying to take an object. So what is this attribute? I said it's a variable declaration that you wanted to have. And what you wanted to call a method, so you wanted to call a method which is like something like c dot init. So when I say action c dot init, you are trying to call the JS controller, and that would be init would be already mentioned here. So every component that many functions you want to define, so you will have a three params there: component, event, and helper. Okay. For the component, we are trying to set something, and again we are trying to get the helper data to get some data for this. So why again we write a component? Because from this particular method, whatever you wanted to send to this helper, so what are the param that you're sending it? Only component you're sending it. You can send this three also, no worries. They are sending only one. So we'll see how this logic works, and then how do we display this data? Let's see it. So let's have a few things where our attributes are going to take object and I take list, and I want to call a method. I want to call the data table. So let's use these options. Um, so this is something that live UI that we're trying it out with a data table. So attributes you have, list you have defined. So data it always talks about. So let's write something like so my data uses are holds the contact data. And so that's only the type is object here because they are trying to hold the original data. And my columns was the contact columns. So whatever the field name that they want to have, they are holding there, and it's a type list. So now why this handlers we need to have? Um, and more other side, you say our colon attributes are used as. So you for easy understanding, I'm putting this way. Used as variable declaration. You can declare a variable, you can assign the variables also. Like I would say integer I is equal to 10. So integer is a data type, I is the name, and if you want to have something default, you can specify always the default here, like this. So that is something that is equal to 10. If you have, you can specify. If you don't have, it's okay, no problem. And then, so my columns holds the data of the column. So here, our column handler are used to call the controller. So that was specifically JS controller, JS controller method. And if it's in it, you can have any name here. That's okay, fine. But what is very important is if this is the first method that to be fired, you should call us always this. Why? Because that is the one we are trying to say that, hey boss, this is the first one I should fire. So where it exactly acts as a constructor. I mean, on the load of the page only, I will have a data. So here on the load of this page only, we have a data is indicates what the record you passed, you got the value here. Something like on a load of the data. For example, if I click on accounts, I clicked on account on the clicking of the load page only, I need to have all these records. Where do I get it? So firstly, I need to call the constructor to query all the records and display the minimum record here. So that is what they're doing here. So handlers are used to call JS controllers method, and if it is init and used, and they use this, and if they use this in value, so surely. So let me start recording. So yeah, so if you have these keywords here, so for sure you can understand them. These are the constructor. They are the first one to load. Sure, they are constructor and first one to load. Okay. So you call C dot C is indicates here what a controller specifically you're calling a controller method. So using C, and this again indicates data table. Oh, sorry. Using my data and the columns, my columns. Using this is trying to display the data. Because for a data table, hardly you require what are the columns, what are the data. If you give this to information, they will you'll be able to display these things. Okay, so now look at this. This is a component simple thing we have. We are yet to write a controller there, and we can't do anything here now. So C dot init means what? I need to have the C dot init there. So go to the controller instantly. So my action they're indicating here. You can write init there. And function. Always will have these three things: component, event, and helper. So what does this indicates? C. So what we're expecting here, if you want to test this out, so we don't do anything, but it will give an error where because already we have been set to saying that my columns, no problem. So we'll have alert here. In the alert, we'll say let's check this whether it works or not. So what is this? I think I can use it anywhere, right? So let me go to object manager. I want to go to contact. I want to go to quick action because I'm this time I'm trying to get a button, and then button has to call this aura component. So create a component now. Click on the lightning component and lightning component. Look at this contact or list. How did it get it? Because I have used somewhere else lightning quick action. You see that lightning quick actions I've used. If you use this tag, then of course you can see this component name is present here. Site is 250 pixels. No, I want somewhere around 500. No, it's okay. So nothing. Standard label type. I don't want any label type, but I want to give label as the button name, button label. I would say list contacts. So I've created a component here record as contacts, list contacts specifically. So let me, so can I get that into search layouts? I don't know. So we have to see. So let's say we have list view and there are a couple of methods they have it. Well, let's see, can we edit this? I think we don't have a custom list button here. Let me check. Both are referring there only. There, no. Label is list contact records. So two types I'm creating there. So save it. So let's see. So there's a button showing here. It says quick action. Okay, anyways. So I'll go to the page layout and I go to the contact layout. I want to get that button there. So go to the mobile lightning actions because I want to specify there the actions. List contacts, list contact records, both the buttons we can see here. So anyway, I wanted to get the list contacts at the very beginning here. Let's save it. Let's see this, there's the list contact button is present here. So the quick action button which you're trying to use it, you can use it in the record type or you can use it in multiple places. So basically the button which you're trying to create, it will help you out to do some activity. So click on the list button. So hello world is the function which we call which has been arriving here. But actually we didn't have written any logic here. So data table we have to show it, right? We don't have anything to be displaying there. Just we create a component and we wanted to get them to a button, quick action button. So lightning component in the record place we have placed. Lightning component on the quick actions we have placed. And lightning component we have embedded with our yeah, internet lightning app that also did it. So now let's get this actual working thing. How do I do? So what we assume c.init, it is calling to this controller and we went there. Of course, we just simply alerted it. So someone is trying to call that component and someone if they're trying to click on the particular button. So it is calling this method. So do you have any question, please?
No, good.
Okay. So now, so let's extend the same thing. So we have to call the components. We have to set it. This component, whatever we have to set the columns. Let's say contact name, what type of a data type it is, and what is it? sorry, what is the name of it, and what is the type of it. So, so name is the field, phone is the field, email is the field. In Salesforce, if you want to query them, and they are of course what type of data text they are holding it. And this is just for the label name they're displaying it. So this label could be any ABC also, whatever it is. But the field name also should be the finite name. What Salesforce fields is holding the same API names it is. This tells these are data types where they're holding it. So this is how you set the component columns. Anyway, we'll come here and then take out this and then add the. So here we have component, here we have CMP. So whatever is there has been mentioned here. You have to copy them and you have to put it here. Or else you can change this to CM, CM, whatever the name you want, you can give it here. So if it is component, you're gonna put component here. If you want CMP, you can put a CMP here. It's all our wish. So any name, we can give it as ET here. We can say it as HP, whatever. It's our wish. So I want to keep it as component only. Components that dot set. Set means what you are trying to write some values to the my columns. Components dot get. So this name dot get, if I say I am trying to retrieve the value from this particular field. Is getting set and a get is basically we are trying to write or read it. So in this case, we are trying to set the values to my columns. So you did this, you just try to go and try to hit the list of components. So it is all displaying the whole value. See this. So now we have name, phone, email are been displaying here. Where did it come from? So you have set it. So you have set the columns there. Look at this. You have set the column name, and these column names are used in the component. So where we say these columns are being passed here. Is getting so v dot set for these columns. If you say the same, then v dot my columns. If I use, I'm retrieving it, right? It is actually binding it is. So if you assign it, that's all. Forget it. Wherever you call that, the both whatever the assigned value will be showing back to you. Is getting once you assign the values to this, anywhere if you use v dot my columns, so what actually it was assigned, it will be present here. So that's the reason we always say v dot get. In this case, if I'm using a controller, I would have used v dot get. I'm saying here v dot set, basically the component dot set for this particular variable. Now all the values have been set to this. So we're just simply calling again v dot my column is you are trying to access that variable. It's just like normal program where you say I int I is equal to 10, and then where you're saying that print I. If in print I, if you want to do, it will have a 10 only there. So same thing like this it is. So they are trying to print the columns here. So now we have to get the data. Where's that? This data we have to get it. To get this data, we have to originally go query the contact and we have to get it. For this, we require a controller. For this, we require a controller. I would say contact or controller. So I'm writing my class name, and let me see here any class names already there written. So what they generally gonna have is they're gonna have a variable they're gonna pass to a construct kind of controller, and this particular any method they write it. So the method name should above they should indicate at the rate or enable. Only then they can search it.
So this controller is different. So this is not part of the bundle, right?
This is not part of the bundle, yeah. So this is something you are trying to do a call from the server. Please give me the data.
So this is the third step in your. Can you show your? Yeah, go top.
Yeah, in the skill set.
Yeah,
So UI controller, and then we're just jumping to our controller, Apex controller.
Apex controller. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
So where we try to do a DML or we do a SQL query, we go to a server and then get
And to
all the
get
data, and then we send back to this controller guy. So this
okay,
controller is asking request, can you give me the server data? So it goes here. And then again, this guy all collects and again give back to this controller. And this guy give again back to UI.
okay.
Hmm. So now we are here. And in this basic controller, what they're trying to do is from this, um, what I say, Aura controller, we would have been calling, can you give me a list of account, or like, can you give me a list of contacts, something they're going to send. So based on that, we're going to display. See, at the rate, so it's an annotations we have or enabled. So always this method should be static. Why? Because we don't have any other ways that we want to display. Like say, if you don't have static class name a is equal to new object name, we can't do such activity because we are directly calling the class name dot method name and then values we have to get or pass. And look at this. So simple list of contacts and then get contacts is a method name you have. You're returning the contacts. That's it. So hardly we're writing a method, simple one, to just simply query your records. And that method should be at the rate or enabled. What if you don't specify this? You written a bunch of code, but you do not specify that. So you're not able to call anything there. So something which called, but this particular method is not even when invoked and they're not trying to query there. Okay, Aura study now. This is all good. So now, how do we call this get contacts to a controller? So for that only, they would have mentioned another method or to the same method, they are trying to invoke the data. So if you see here, that's the reason. So they're saying that, okay, let's call the helper method and we try to process some data. You see this helper dot get data component. This actually you would have written the same method here within the, so let's first do without a helper, we'll try to do it. And then for to make easy, we will move to the helper method. So what I'm going to do here is, so I'm going to copy this method and put into the same method what we have. So every method after that, you need to have a comma here. And then another method you need to specify. So this init is one method and the get data is one method. Is getting?
Okay.
So get data for us now, I am calling init here. So init is the first one to load. Init is the first one to load. Now get data they don't talk, then they don't call at all. So let me see if I try to do this, it works out. Get data. Okay. So let's see. I'm just calling a component from one method to another method. I'm trying to do it. So I'm just calling this component, whether I don't know whether it's working or not. So let's see.
So get contacts will call that contact Aura controller.
Which one?
C dot get contacts.
What we're trying to do is we're just calling the init only. C dot init.
No,
And
no,
that,
no. In that get data, there's C dot get contacts, right?
yeah, the C dot get contacts will go to our Apex controller and then get contacts. This is the method that we written.
How it is tied up, bonded, so that no, it knows that it should call that.
Very good question. So you should come to the other controller and you should write in your component, you should specify controller is equal to getting.
Okay.
So that way, once you controller define, so we are okay with that. For this, in VF page also you mentioned the controller, right? Standard controller, custom controller.
Yeah, yeah.
You go to VF page on the top, you mention that. And then once it is defined, so everywhere in the logic or in the classes, wherever you can use it. So now this particular component is trying to call this class. Okay, the class is there. Now it is defined. Now we need not to do again write a controller of a class name. So come to the controller, component dot get. Simply this is enough. Component dot get c dot get context if I say. So this is an invocation call for a method. So where does c dot context? Generally, we know that this type of methods, if it is written, it should be in our Apex class. For this Apex class, do already if that particular guy is mentioned any class name, I'll go search there. So this is a predefined thing. And to this class, I'm going searching here, and that method is at the rate or enabled, yes. And do the method have name, yes. And they are trying to return a list of records. Okay. So now this is RHS. Right hand side, what we got the value as a list of contacts. Same thing now you should assign to the left hand side like action. Now with this action, what we're trying to do is we are trying to set back and saying that okay boss, let's get the if the response is state is true. So we wanted to assign to my data. What is my data? My data is basically indicating that I am a data collections. I would have it. This of the data object. So each and every record they are holding there. And so what is this response dot get written value? So if you do this, it just simply you have initiated an action. How actually it goes to a control and calls this is the where the place it is. A dot A indicates aura here. So the whole bunch within aura is A here. Dot get callback function. The return of the value would be hold in response. So in this response only will hold the return value whatever for this method it is. So response dot get return value, response dot get state, response dot get error. All this will have in response only. Like you're trying to do an integration call, and in that integration call you will have a status of the response or response dot get body or response dot status code. All that we see in the response, right? The same thing here it is. So this function will have response, and they will have post this callback has happened. So they will all the state value in errors. They all hold it here. Any questions? So we have this, we have our control. Let's quickly check this whether what it is displaying now. Whether our helper only should have or we need to have within a component also we can achieve it. So it's throwing error saying that get data is not defined. Where it is not defined. So look at this. Get data we are sending it right. So when you want to call a method from another method, let's quickly check this. So how do you call one controller to another controller? So generally you have written a method like this and another method like this. I agree. Um, component dot. Okay, sorry for that. You just need to pass component dot. We use this right, so take this off. Should be component name component dot get data. So that way this will be called. So that is what I'm saying. So call from a bar you want to call foo. Sorry, from a foo you want to call bar means what? Component dot bar method. So this bar method will be called. So let's see them. So from get data. So for example, you need want to call the get data, right? So component dot get data. So quickly I have to call this. Let's see this. What happened? action c dot bar c dot bar. Okay, let me do this. Component get so c dot foo, and I'm sending this way. Let's see. And this doesn't work. So let me write another way. So where action is equal to c dot get data. Okay, single quotes is also fine. It doesn't matter. Single quotes is also fine. And we have to encode this action where we put the last time. So I wanted to call them at the very beginning here. So I doubt it. NQ action should be there because with NP action they can call it. So just let's try it out. So you would write an independent method, but from init method only you're trying to call another method and you're trying to achieve it. So that's a try between it. But it called, but no data there. So NQ action component. So only one NQ action, that is again a question.
So the quick question is C dot get data is calling something and C dot get context is calling something else.
Yeah, I mean,
Because both C's are same, right?
this is fine. This is trying to call the controller here locally. It'll understand.
Yeah, but again here C dot get data. It's going to call same controller again.
See, C dot get data means you're trying to. It is something like this. You have a public, some like say static void a method. Again, you have b method also. But you're trying to call them here. So a, sorry, what is it? B. So the moment when you call a, I need to run this b. Getting? So I don't want to run this separate method and run this separate method. According to us, what happens, So public, some constructor name. This is a constructor we have written called as init constructor. So here actually you're loading the loading columns. Here only you have to load the data also. So instead of loading the data here only, so what we have written is we have written in a method let's say B we have written data logic we have written here. So what I should do, I should call B, right?
Yeah.
That is what we're doing there. So this is a constructor. First one it should load. Yeah, loading columns done. Loading columns done, and then we are trying to call the B for data to populate. So for to populate the B, we have the logic here.
I
That's what we,
understand that. But if you go back, um, C, what is C here? C dot get data.
it is calling the local method here. And if you
Okay.
just say that c dot get contacts, it will look like in local, or it will try to go check in the controller. You getting?
Okay.
It will look like in the local, or it will just go to the Apex controller and see there. So what I was thinking is like NQ action 2 times. I should specify. It's a question which I had. So so let me put all this event helper on because I know what actions they have been taking up. Oh, so anything in data we're not getting it. Let me put a note inside get data. Inside get data. Okay. Yeah. I think I want to do a test one thing here. I want to comment this out and check it out. Who has been invoking this? So we know that we are into inside the guest data. Need not to print this again. So the action is very important. There, that is what I feel here. You have written a method. This is a controller method now. You think it's not like controller method. You are make this as a constructor that the first method should load it. Okay, I agree. On load of this, I want to prepare some data. So you want to have another method you want to have. So you have written this way. So you written this way again. You are trying to this invoke the action of get data. Okay, I agree. So when you came here, so you're doing a bunch of activity. You are having actions to be set. In order to go call the get contacts and get data, we have to have something. The Aura have to enqueue the action. So enqueue action here indicates, okay, let you be the first one to call. Next, I am in the queue to call another action. So the meaning of the enqueue action, let's see it. What is enqueue action in Lightning? Queue a call to an Apex action. The framework queues up the actions before sending them to the server. This mechanism is largely transparent to you when you are writing a code, but it enables the framework to minimize the network traffic by batching multiple actions into one request. It's just absolutely like a batch class where you write or a cubal class, also a good example. So first action is run, so then next action we're waiting for. So if you see that, in this case, first init action, you're trying to call this action. What happened? It tried to call quickly this get data. I came here. Again, here also I have some action to go call the server to get some data. That is what controllers does. So in this method, if I call, I'll get the list of contacts. So action, everything have been set. So if this enqueue action is called, if this enqueue action is called, only then I can hit to the server and get the data. Post that I can have all this value set up. Now let's do one thing. So what is my data we will actually will have? I wanted to console.log them. So console.log of uh, so whatever the response dot return value, got it. So I want to print them so that I'll show something different to you. I wanted to fire the enq action. Let's say this is the first action. After this, immediate q action is this. Like as many methods you have, you can keep calling them, but you need to have the enq actions been ready there. It's getting. You call this method. Another method also there is some action. Again, another method also there's some action. So please have enq action set up there. So one after the other call it will happen, and then you get the results. Now let's come back here. I do Control Shift R to refresh the cache. Control Shift and then R. So list contacts I'm getting it here. So I have this data. So I do right click and I do inspect here. Since we put console.log, so we should see something here console. Sometimes how do you do debug list is this is the one way we do it. You see there's an array of 42 records been printing here. Pat, Rogers, Kalpana. These are all contacts, right?
Yeah.
So main number J is 25. They're not displaying the right number. Errors we are not printing, actually we are not getting any errors. So the first one is here, console.log. I'm just saying that print me response.getWritten value. That response.getWritten value is holding all this. 42 records, they're holding it. And that is what you can see there as a list in table. So if you want to put a debug and check, so put that custom.debug log and see what the data has been getting here in the browser. Because this is all client, as I said, it's a client-based development. In your browser and you can check the details on whether the record is pulling or not. So far, any change that you want to do it, we just went on to the Apex debug log and we used to see here. We check a log and then randomly we see that, okay, are the data has been flowed or not. Of course, you hit the button there, it is calling the Apex controller. Only this call is getting called. See, 42 records have been taken here. 42 rows has been taken here. The class is called, but whether we're not sure about the component is called or the component is displaying the record data, we are unsure about it. We know that something from this Aura component, a button has been clicked and it went to the JS, and the JS is called to Apex class, and the Apex class is called here. But the return results, what they're passing, are they passing or not? So we're unsure about it. To do this, you just simply put the console.log or what return you're getting or where the variable that you want to set to print it here. Just do this. And then load the component inspect, and then you click on the console. So in the console tab, you should see all the printing that whatever you want to put for errors or where it is going wrong, all that you can check it here. And this applies for the LWC also, because all they are trying to run in the local browser and we're trying to check the results in the browser. So make sure your console log after the development is done, you need to turn off. It should not be printed like this publicly. Something I want to print, I will print in the table, not like this. Is getting? So any questions?
You kept a debug there to print out that message?
Yeah, so yeah, this is the console.log. Response.written value I printed there. So system.debug is nothing but this. Now, how do we do system.debug and we print something like this? It is as equivalent as same as this console.log response.written value. Get it?
Yeah.
All right. So now only one thing which I want to do is I want to make a simple integration call from the sysctl arg, and then are I'm able to create a record or I'm able to display a record. So like as we did here, no, the same thing we'll do there. So that way, at least from an external systems, how do you make a call that you can get to know? So creating a record or retrieving a record, any one if you do, that's smooth enough because our agenda is to either do play with internal org or do play from also from the external org and then get the results. Now getting the results is coming in JSON. Now how do we handle that? That if you see, I think it is good enough.
You told you use a different method, right? Instead of get data, you told initially.
Come again.
No, no, you told before this get data, you told we'll try this one, but there's a simpler method to.
So
Try.
now if you see here in the lightning data table, so these guys are using helper here.
Yeah, hypercast.
Yes, again. Yeah, Kumar. So answering to your question is like helper dot get data, and this helper method we are trying to call here. Of course, this is helper.js. We write it here. This one you're saying?
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm. So what I'm saying is helper code snippet already we have here. So what I wanted to try it out is how you are trying to call one component to another component. So which I discussed in the past. Somewhere I don't know. How do we call one component to another component? How do we communicate with one component to another component? Um, do components used in learning experience? Can we navigate from one? Look at this. Hmm. Can we navigate from one component to another component? Or navigate or call or invoke from one component to another component. So for this only, I've just given that example. So though you return multiple methods, but how can you move from one component to another component or one control method to another control method? So that is how it is. Hearing. So now the way
yeah.
you've seen here is a controller. For the tomorrow, if you want to have a component to be called, let's say you are um, contact component. So you are in this component. Another one you have something like um, child, some record component. So this particular component you can call here. How? So you can simply pass that time component.cmp. That's more than enough. Getting? So this is a component A. This is component, another component called B. You want to call this in A. So it's about what? For this a simple basic example, what I did is I made a controller to have some same similar logic. Anyway, one component trying to call another component, that is fine. So here in this logic, what it is we try to call init method and get method in the same controller. I don't want to have to helper method. Helper method anyway, you can write this helper and get data. You can push it. It goes to next method where we don't have any enqueue actions here, but only enqueue actions we have here. How do I do both in club in one particular controller? So to do that, I just made some scenario there. So you can still have this no issues. I mean, already you have a snippet here, so I didn't try with the same. So I wanted to have a different approach where within a single control also can be achievable. How to do it? So that is what I wanted to add there. So this helper method, which I'm trying to call here, get data function component we have. So I would save this here. If I try to call, I can call here, but I don't try because um, so component dot helper. What is that helper we're calling it, right? Helper. Then you're passing the event. Sorry, you're passing helper here, and
Get data.
you're passing get data here. So is it helper dot get data and pass component?
Helper dot get data, right?
Yeah. So we're going to helper and then get data this method, and then inside that you're trying to pass component.
Component.
This component is taking the few values about whatever we wanted to pass. So they are passing something like CMP, we can pass component. Yeah. I've just commented this because if you untick this, yeah, it will go call to this helper method and then invoke the actions, whatever you have done here. Okay. You can do that way also. So I want to achieve something within the same controller. Is it possible or not? So then we have two NQ actions been tried up there because we know NQ action means is one after the other it's going to call. So it called first and then it's going to call second. Now how do we invoke this get data here? So something like these actions we have to have it. Look at this. So you had a confusion that c.getData also is like something like a class and c.getContext is something like a class method. So it understands, okay, do we have any controller methods within this JS? Or I will go to a Apex controller methods, which is having this. Getting? So to do this, it should have already implemented or you should have invoked um, a class name here. That works out. And with the help, we tried to put them to quick action. We tested there. That worked out. Now altogether, I wanted to create a new lightning tab and I want to place my all new stuff there. Yes, still you can do it. Go to the lightning page and you can create your own page there. Okay, so you call this lightning tab. Let me go to a tabs and then go to click on tab. So there's a lightning page tabs, lightning component tabs. Okay, you want to create a component tab. We didn't create any page as of now. So existing page only we're trying to modify, like say record page I modified. You want to create a component tab? Yes, this component like our account list component, it's a component tab. If you want to get them, so choose list contact. Why when did this be getting is because we chose in every possible way to creating this component. I would say contact list. Tab name is also contact list. Any tab style that you want. Randomly just bring it up. It's default on everyone. Now, generally how you see candidates other tabs are visible. Same way, the contact list also should be visible to you. So go here, search. Contact list list. Do you see this? Or click on more also you can see them. Look at this contact list tab. Since it is a tab, now it is able to access now. I'm gonna click on this. Look at this. So that particular tab, which is trying to call the whole component, and then there's displaying the whole bunch of data here. Getting? So you're able to get as a tab also here. So according to us, so get them a tab, get them to a record page, get them as a quick action. All this we done. Get them to page also not a big deal. We'll do it off. So lighting page, I think you have to go to a specific object and the contact that you're trying to do this stuff. Lightning pages, you somewhere you see here. Lightning record pages. And this is a record page. I wrote it here. Let's go to app page. So this all indicates about the app. Look at this, guys. You have to go to a lightning app builder for this stuff to create a lightning page. So where do you go? So you go to lightning app builder and from there you try to create new page. You got this? So this is something that you're creating app page for respectively in the app builder. Of course, if you create a lightning component where you want to contact and there it is a page, if you create there also the same, here also the same. So I want to create an app page here. You guys are getting? If you go to a app manager, sorry, object manager and go to contact and there we have lightning recorded pages. So there also you create the same. Coming to app builder and doing also the same. So I should mention here, lightning app builder, new lightning page. This is also same. Or from object manager also you go and from there also you go to object and there also you create a record page. It's a record page we assume. While creating a new, then again give the same option, app home, something like this. So I'm choosing app here because I want to have lightning independent page. I don't want to get with any of these guys. So here I got to say contact list app. So which region I want to have, I can have multiple region, but I'm just putting currently one region here. So contact list aura is the component that we have. Since again white is displaying here, again we have in the implementations we have kept all app post label available for all pages. So that's the reason again it is getting there. So drag and drop. So punch, yes, full filters, yes. You know something can add a filter also here. And that filter, if it is given a design param there, it'll go from here to there. So we don't have an operator. Cell to field. So device user permission. See that's the reason we are trying to give something else here. If you have given right filters used, it would have given the same name. Anyway, we can't use it because design params are not used. Save. Activate for all users. Yeah. Finish. Okay. Let's come back to the setup page. You see this tab named as Lightning List tab. Click on that. This is this. It's just acting like a small mini app, and you're having all this content here. So again, we're able to create a Lightning page separately, and then that is the results that we're seeing here. The other one which you saw is Lightning tab. It is just like how other tabs are there. It is just like a tab. This is something like Lightning app page we have created, and then we add like this. More or less both are same, but the feature is you can have one component tied to another component, like multiple regions you can have here. But whereas the tab you had, you don't have any options to get regions and all. Just a component you pulled up there and then you displayed here. So this is just like one individual component we're displaying here. Whereas a page, you can have one or more components that you can drag and drop. Since because it shows a edit page here. There's no edit page. Look at here. So this is a simple component tab we pulled up. So there's no edit page here. But this is the page we created. This is like something like an app page we created. We can have one or more components also to the same UI. So that's the reason you have edit page there. Any questions?
No, good.
Okay. I don't know whether you guys are exhausted with the overall now. I thought of doing integration from the sysintl to the ZAR using Aura. If you're exhausted, we can take it tomorrow also, no problem.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so if I take tomorrow of the Aura, so whatever the pending things, I'll upload all this video stuff today only. Tomorrow is only the pending thing, which is like maybe connecting from external system to Salesforce. How do we invoke and retrieve the service or create a record and see display? So those will do it. Anyway, that's a manual code. You have to do it. Any out of the box code, we don't have to invoke some service. We have to hit and write the manual code. So we'll do that. And post that, I wanted to give 1 day gap here. So 1 day gap on my Sunday, I'll give it. So why? Because if people have not seen the videos or so if they're lagging behind, so they can see that videos in this between, and they can understand. Or else for you also, like if you have not been a part of any other class, you can also go through them. So Sunday 1 day give a gap, and again on Monday morning again we'll start for the or sorry for the LWC. It'll again go for 3 days for sure. 3 to 4 days it'll show because our itself has been now 4 days now. Tomorrow will be fourth day. So even 3 to 4 days it'll take. So I think next week we are gonna close up this topic. Is it fine, guys?
Yeah.
And moreover, if you have people have not taken any admin or a PD1, so for PD1 recently Raj cleared, so you can have questions to him. For admin, there's another resource, another candidate called as Tushira. She has cleared the what is it, admin certifications. So we can also have a context with her. If any information is required, we can ask from her. But what she recommended is go to a trail mix. If you're trying to give lightning admin exam, trail mix admin certification. So she prepared for these, and then I think this is the one, the bunch one. Yeah. Prepare for your Salesforce administration credential. This helped a lot, she said. But just please go to this and then view it. So I'm putting this to our chat and also to our notes. I'm putting it admin exam. So if you're registering for exam, please ask me once. If I have a coupon code of $100 discount, I'll give it to you. So if you don't have, then you have to spend from your pocket. Any redoing exam also, if you have, you can ask me. So there's $80 free or $100 free. You can still apply to that. Mm. So I've put here for admin exam here the link. And to this chat window also I'll put it. Trail mix is very important in order to take an admin exam. So though you have dumps or whatever it is, though it is there, but actual thing. So this is all conceptually it is helping out in order to get an idea about what Salesforce admin stuff is doing. Is got it? Overall, the admin concepts, whatever we covered and everything that will be seen here. But few more detailed descriptions about a material type that you get it here. So we have some practical exams, basic stuff here. I mean, reading through all this, you will get an idea of what an admin certification does. So this helps, she said, and few other dumb questions, which is of our no online, that is also helps, she said. So if you're giving this exam, so just see these admin exam trails. So this again, all of both the same people are giving the adding the components of the same. What you're going to see, admin 201 certification, which has 16,000 points, and okay, there's two things only. So by simply by googling, you'll get that no issues, but just make sure that you are completing all of this, so that will help you out. Okay, again, we'll connect back tomorrow.
Yes, sure.
Yeah. So thank you all. We'll keep posted on the recording today. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.